saying? This would get rid of the need for a special session?
What's that?
You're saying this would get rid of the need for a special session?
Yeah, if we did it this way, it would get it would do away with the need for the special session. The governor seems very adamantly opposed to any kind of a special session. So where that leaves us would be approving the enabling legislation and the appropriation in 2 weeks, and we still not got an official document back from CMS on the things that we've asked for. We do have this 2-page memo, which I shared with you the critique of that from David Roy, who's a well-known healthcare writer for Forbes that has followed this story very closely. And I still believe there are just too many unknowns. Now, I know information can be gathered and questions can be answered quickly, but we're up against the clock. We've got a couple of weeks left to address this issue if we're going to do it in this session.
Where does negotiations on the enabling legislation stand? Is someone going to introduce that legislation today or tomorrow?
My understanding is that it's being drafted. I haven't seen the latest draft of it. I know that the process was the DHS made a draft. We took it, made changes to the draft. DHS has reviewed that. I know they had some exceptions to some of the stipulations that we put in the draft that they didn't think they could achieve. It's all going through the drafting process. I expect there will be some revisions and modifications to it, but my understanding is that with the trajectory that we're on, that bill would have to be filed this week, probably by the middle of the week, in order for us to get it through both chambers and passed before the session ends.
What's the sticking point between you and DHS for that legislation?
Well, one issue was and I don't know all the details on this because I haven't seen the revised draft, but saying that it's not an entitlement program. I think there was a sticking point on that that we had put in our draft, that the beneficiaries would acknowledge that it's not an entitlement program. It can be removed at any time.
Is that like a wording issue, or does that mean that?
I think that's more of a process and a program issue than just a wording issue.
There's also, I also saw the language about the health savings accounts. Can you describe what you are trying to do with that and exactly how that works?
And I think the health savings accounts are critical, and we have to have flexibility on the health savings accounts. The way we've got the draft of the private option legislation right now would be a pilot program to test health savings accounts or medical savings accounts, which would, and that gets back to one of the questions that David Roy brought up, was, is the plan going to have flexibility to be more like private insurance, or is it just going to be fee-for-service Medicaid under a different name, with a private insurance plan that has the same benefits and covers the same things that fee-for-service payments cover? The idea behind the private option and the co-pays, the higher deductible, and the health savings accounts is that you can allow Medicaid beneficiaries to have more skin in the game by creating a system that has a higher deductible. You give them the money to pay for that deductible in a health savings account. You give them the money to pay for co-pays in the health savings account, and they have ownership of that health savings account, so that when they make decisions on using medical services, they either they're looking at it from the standpoint that this money is going to come out of my health savings account. Some ideas we've had on those health savings accounts are to call them something like an independence account, where if at the end of the year they've got extra money in those accounts, they could use that to further their education. They could use it for workforce training or some program to help them move out of the government assistance program and into a program that they're paying for on their own. So we know that what happened in Indiana with health savings accounts proved positive. We know that we need to incentivize good behavior on healthcare choices, and to me, we have to have the flexibility to at least try some of these health savings accounts or independence accounts in whatever plan we adopt. Another thing, if you just look at the financials on it, the qualified health plans for the silver plan, I believe the actuary had that at $466 per month. I may be wrong on that number. But I've seen numbers on qualified health plans where you had a higher deductible that were, in the $150 to $160 per month range. And that's with like a $1,200 deductible. So you could take the difference between those qualified health plan premiums, put that money into a health savings account, and actually save the state money and save the federal government money, and allow the beneficiaries or the participants the opportunity to manage that money and to understand more what their health decisions, more of the impact it had on the bottom line.
How much support is there in the caucus for the steel mill incentives bill?
I still haven't polled the caucus on that. I'm not sure. I hear mixed reports from different people that I talk to. I know the Speaker and the Senate Pro Tem have both come out in support of the steel mill, as well as some other members that publicly supported it. I'm personally of the opinion that if it's really that good of a deal, that that whether the financing comes from the state or from somebody private, that they'll go ahead and build the facility. I know they've said that if they don't get the financing from the state, they'll go to another state. Well, that tells me that maybe it's not as good a deal to have it here in Arkansas if they're willing to move it to a different state just because of the financing piece of it. But I still haven't decided whether I'm going to vote for the steel mill project or not. I want to hear some more debate on it, read some more about it, and see what the overall benefits to the state is going to be if we do that.
Is there any simple plan legislation that there'll be action on this week?
Yeah, several of our Medicaid sustainability issues are out there. We've obviously got the income tax. Just looking at a recap, we've got 16 bills that are now law. We've got the override of the governor's veto on voter ID, which I expect that to happen this week. Probably not today. Could happen today, but Mondays are always difficult because you don't know if everybody got back into town, if everyone's going to be here. So we have to make sure that I do believe it will be a straight partisan vote on the governor's override. So we've got to make sure we've got all 51 of our members in the chamber and in their seat when it comes time to do the override. There are several bills on legal and regulatory reform out there that I think have taken the back seat this session because of all the other issues, but we've got House Bill 1929 by Representative Andy Davis, which would eliminate needs for costly studies that are not required by the EPA. And that's on the way to the governor after passing the Senate. House Bill 1687 by Representative David Branscombe. It streamlines the appeal process and requires prompt notification of rulings by ADQ and the Arkansas Pollution Control and Ecology Commission. That one's awaiting Senate action. If you want to talk about economic development and job growth, having an efficient permitting system that still adheres to all the laws, but it moves at a pace that allows businesses to operate in a more timely manner and to have expectations that their questions are going to be answered, whether it's yes or no. The timing of getting feedback from environmental permitting is critical to industrial development projects. And this law just would force ADEQ to use the tools that they've already got to make decisions and not to delay decisions. Obviously, we'll start hearing more bills on referred constitutional amendments. I think there'll be a big debate on tort reform with SJR 2 and SJR 5, which seem to be the two bills out of the Senate that are getting the most attention on tort reform.
Anything else? Just going back to Medicaid for a second, are you willing to enact enabling legislation even if you don't hear back from HHS before the next 2 weeks?
I think we would be doing the responsible thing on our part with the information that we have that shows that the enabling or that the private option is better financially from Arkansas or for Arkansas based on those actuarial analysis. So putting that plan in place and allowing DHS to work towards that program would probably be the responsible thing to do. But I'm really leery about putting it out there and funding it without any kind of feedback or commitment from CMS.
Any thought to